Hey, how's everyone doing today? My name is Alex Lerman with LowKickMMA, and today I am joined by Cage Warriors welterweight champion Rhys McKee. Rhys, how's everything going by you today?
Yeah, everything's good. Another hectic Friday, but happy to take the time and happy to get a chat with you, Alex.
I appreciate it very much, man. So let's get started. So you've been on quite the journey in your professional MMA career. Being between Cage Warriors, UFC, and now back to Cage Warriors. Can you just take a second and reflect back, because and tell me how you got into MMA in the first place?
Yeah, so I get into MMA through like pretty much any other story of a kid from the UK. Like I played a lot of soccer, a lot of football, and the preseason time was there, so I decided to try a new sport. At the time, MMA was kind of getting cool, so I went to the local MMA gym and tried my hand at it, and like just fell in love with the sport. Just became addicted to everything I had and how much I didn't know. So I quit the football and stayed with MMA.
Nice. So, as I said before, you've been on quite the journey. So you were 3-0 in Cage Warriors before going to the UFC. Then obviously took a couple road little blocks in the road there. Now back at Cage Warriors on a 2-fight win streak. What have you learned about yourself in that period of time as a fighter and as a person?
Yeah, I think like just how resilient I was, during the UFC spell, I had, big challenges. I had COVID during my second bout with Morano. I trained through that. I obviously accepted the Khamzat fight, which, later turned out how good he was. Like a lot of resilience, a lot of I learned a lot about myself that I am a fighter in every sense of the word. A lot of fighters talk a good game, but I walk the walk every time. And even if the odds weren't in my favor, I'm one of those fighters that'll always fight. So I learned how tough I am and how resilient. But I think I've matured a lot since then, since coming back to Cage Warriors. I now know that um I have to make smarter decisions. And I think in my last two fights I've shown a lot of growth there. So it's something I'm insanely proud of.
Yeah, I can definitely see in your last couple of fights, just the maturity level is increased 100%.
Yeah.
Um, Now, what do you believe makes you such a big threat to anyone that would step across from you in the octagon or the cage?
Yeah, I just know I can put someone's lights out at any time in a fight. I'm one of these fighters that, as we've seen in my last fight, I can be down, 2 rounds, it can all be going bad. And, I can find that shot from anywhere, any position, from bottom, from top, standing, on the back foot, on the front foot. I'm a threat everywhere. But I know my power and striking is too much for anyone. So I think that and the fact that my will and grit like can get me through any situation. I'm an insanely hard man to make give up, and I'll not be broken. So I think the touch of death, so to speak, with the will and the grit makes me a nightmare for anyone.
Yeah, as we've seen in your past few couple fights, the power is clearly above and beyond. So, moving on now to your upcoming fight, Cage Warriors 153 in Dublin coming up in April. What do you expect to see from your opponent, Jim Wallhead, and how do you see yourself getting your hand raised and winning that fight?
Yeah, I mean Jimmy, he's very experienced. He's done it. He's been there. He's wore the t-shirt twice. He's someone that I expect. A solid, prepared version of himself. He is a bit older. But with that comes huge threat. Again, huge experience. How I see myself winning the fight is just overrunning everything he does. I'll hold a pace that's too high, a pressure that's too much power. I'll have answers to everything he poses. And to be honest, I think me being a bit fresher in the tooth is just going to be the difference. It's not because he's older than me or anything like that. I just think I'm the new breed in the next generation of martial artists. I think I have too many skills in every area. And I think it'll just be a real changing of the guards fight. He's insanely dangerous, but I believe I'm going to be prepared for everything he brings to the table.
I like that answer. Yeah, and you said he's dangerous, but as you've shown, you're clearly very dangerous yourself. So it's going to be a good
Absolutely.
one.
Yeah.
For this fight coming up, any specific focuses that you guys are working on in training camp? Anything you're really emphasizing at all?
I just think, always evolving as a martial artist and becoming better and better. Obviously, Jimmy Wallhead's nickname is Judo Wallhead. So, you can expect a strong clinch game, a strong grappling game. So I'd be lying if I said we weren't going to be doing a lot of that. But, that doesn't mean I'm not still working on my own strengths. I'm still striking a lot. I'm still wrestling a lot. I'm still grappling a lot. I still do all the usual things. We just have a bit of a focus, but nothing to the point. This fight camp isn't for Jim Wallhead. This fight camp is for Rhys McKee in Dublin. I'm not a defensive fighter. I go out and attack. And I'll never change that approach. It's what's got me where I am. So, and we will work specifics, but nothing that would shut my whole game off.
So you're looking to set the pace pretty much.
Oh, absolutely. Like I'm a pressure fighter, I'm a pace fighter. I take a forward step any chance. And I'm not, a lot of fighters go into these fight camps with, defend mentality, like let's defend everything we have because he'll do this. Where I'm very much like I'm going to go out and do this, and then in the back burner we have options as well.
I like that.
For sure.
So previously, as I said before, you had a little stint in the UFC, and being the champ now, do you think the UFC is next with a win over Wallhead?
Yeah, for sure. I've had 2 wins, 2 finishes. I've had 12 finishes in my career. Every fight's been a finish. The style of fighter I am, this will be another finish. And this is exactly what the UFC want. So yeah, I win here the way I normally win. And I believe it'll be back to the UFC. If it's not, I'll go again and I'll get another finish and just keep going until but I think the UFC's hand will be tied here. They asked me to go away and develop. I've done it. They've asked me to go away and win fights. I've done it. So I'm extremely excited for that next step. But right now, Jimmy Wallhead's is the man blocking the door. So let's get him kicked out of the way first.
Absolutely, yeah. I like that mentality a lot. Speaking of a return to the UFC, do you have any potential opponents in mind that you would want to see right away, for your first fight back?
Not nothing specific. Like again, I'd probably fight whoever they offered, but I would like maybe Niko Price, someone like that. I think would be a fun fight. Funny, before I got released from the UFC, I seen he was looking at an opponent, and I remember kind of wanting that fight. So I feel like someone like Niko Price would be nice, but to be honest, I want to go in the UFC and compete with the top 25 in the world. I don't really want to. I don't really want to go out and spend much time fighting UFC debutants and stuff like that. Not that they're not worthy, but like I'm going to make up for lost time and these free fights outside of the UFC. I want to make up for lost time.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Since you've been there before, went away to develop, now back again, or will be back again.
Yeah.
So speaking of UFC, we have a huge welterweight fight coming up. In your division, obviously, between Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman. That's the second time they're matching up. How do you see this fight playing out? Any predictions you got for it?
Yeah, it's hard because I said, I'm a massive Kamaru Usman fan. I said the only person I'd like to see potentially give him a loss would be Leon Edwards. And now they're rematching. I would love to see Leon Edwards defend it, but I think Kamaru Usman will overrun it and get his title back. I think he's too good. Again, it's one of these fights I really like. I want to see both of them win. But I think if I was to purely put a bet on it, I would have to say Usman. But I wouldn't be disappointed if Edwards retained.
Do you think Usman gets it done in a decision or a finish?
I think he'll decision. Yeah, I think Usman by decision. Kind of very similar to the last fight.
Yeah, where Usman was winning the whole time, and then obviously what happened at the end.
Yeah, crazy fight. Like it was
insane.
What a fight to watch. I don't think I spoke for about 5 minutes after it was over.
Just in shock.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking about finishes, I ask fighters this question. I always love hearing the perspective on it. And I think I know what you're going to say. Would you rather, in general, get a quick finish or a dominant unanimous decision victory?
Yeah, definitely a finish.
Yeah, I thought you would say that.
And like this fight, like every fight's a wee bit different. And, like sometimes I'd like a quick finish. Like the Mantakivi one, I wanted a quick finish and didn't get it was to the later finish. The Burlinson one, I wanted to go to the round 4 or 5 and get the finish there. I got it in round 3. But, this fight again, I'm going to try and go get him around 4 or 5. That would be my ideal fight. Get plenty of time, a real good fight, a real performance and showing, and then finish late in the fourth or late in the fifth would be my ideal scenario.
Right on. I like that. Now, obviously, you want to get back to the UFC. Can you just give me a little description of what some of your goals are, short and long term, for your MMA career?
Yeah, well, I think short term obviously is this fight. It's my third headline in Ireland, so you know my short term goal is to win this fight in dominating fashion, and then long term it's challenge for that UFC gold. It's get into the division, start doing exactly what I'm doing in Europe, and just get closer and closer to that title. And I'm only 27. We're talking 5 years, 4 or 5 years, I've been in my athletic prime, and I'm still so young in this game, despite how much experience. So yeah, get this next fight out of the way, and then get to the UFC and start climbing.
Absolutely. What do you feel like the timeline would be for you to reach the top?
Yeah, like it's a good question. I think I
It's a
think
tough
and
one.
then yeah,
Sorry,
like
go
I
ahead.
think I think by the time I get to the UFC, like I'll be on a real treadmill of speed. So I'm talking like 4 or 5 years. 4 years. I'd like to be in top contention. Um, if not sooner. Like look how quick Khamzat's runs came.
Hmm.
Things can happen very fast, and if the right fights line up in the right way and everything goes and injury free, like who's to say you can challenge for the title in 2 years? So. But I would predict 3 to 4.
Okay. Yeah, we've seen some quick risers, so you never know. You never know what the timeline could be when that could happen.
Hmm.
You mentioned Hamzat's name. What was it like being in the cage with him? Because obviously he's on a crazy run. Everyone's in awe of this guy. So, and you've been in the cage with him one on one. So I just want to hear your perspective.
Yeah, like I always say this answer to people when they ask me about Hamzat. Like it wasn't, at the time he wasn't who he is now. Um, obviously he still was that guy, but I didn't at the time. It's hard. I'm not saying this is an excuse, but I was in a different position. I was underprepared. I was called up with 6 days notice. I was just there to fight. I wasn't there to I didn't even think about the competing side. I was there to fight him, which was probably the wrong mentality. However, I'm still happy I'd done it. But you know, I think it was obvious then he was a real threat. He's a massive guy. He's a lot of power. He's very fast. Hats off to him. It was a great experience. And a nice guy backstage. But like he was good. He was fantastic. But I wasn't the real myself there either. So it's hard to give an honest reading and how good he felt.
Gotcha. So now, moving away from fighting, last thing I got for you, what are some of your hobbies or interests outside of MMA?
Yeah, so I'm married, I have a wife, I have a business, I have
Nice.
2 dogs. So my life outside of fighting is running the business, spending time with my wife, the dogs, just normal stuff. I don't really have hobbies as such as like, I don't play any other sports or anything like that. It's very much training and just living life and running the business. But like a good life, a very good life, everything complements each other and nothing stops me. At putting fighting first, really, and when it comes to fight time, it's fight time, and in between fights, I have all this time to work in other areas.
That's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about your business?
Yeah, so it's a personal training gym. It's a fitness facility in our local town, and where we take members in, we get them fit, we get them strong. If they want to lose weight, we do that. And, just make them fitter, healthier versions of themselves, and just have a good time in doing so. It's a lot of good people, a lot of good coaches, and we just have a good time together. So it's a special place,
I like that. Sounds like good vibes.
and they'll all be there in Dublin, which is
Oh,
even better.
awesome. That's great. I bet you can't wait for that.
Yeah, it'll be a big night.
That's awesome. So, yeah, that's all I got for you today, Reese. Now's the time if you have any social medias you want to shout out, any sponsors, any other shout outs you want to give, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, so it's just Rhys McKee MMA and all socials. All my sponsors and stuff are on there. I try to keep everything on social nowadays. It's kind of the world we live in. So
Hmm.
any thanks and special mentions will all be on there. So Rhys McKee and MMA on all platforms.
All right. Well, you heard the man. Everyone, on MMA fans everywhere, everyone watching this video, please keep your eyes out. Cage Warriors 153 in Dublin at the 3 Arena. Rhys McKee is headlining against Jim Wallhead. And as he said, he's looking for that finish. So please don't miss out on that. Rhys, really appreciate your time today. Thanks for everything, and hope to speak to you soon.
Yes, Alex, thank you very much.
You have a good one, Rhys. Thanks.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.